Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Glad to see everybody that made it here. That's good. Brave the cold. We are still in Genesis. Or at least we're over halfway through Genesis now. It's going to be tight if I can get this done. Let's see. All right, so
15, 20.
not last week, but the week before. Anybody remember anything?
No.
Good. All right, so we were in chapter 27, where Jacob stole Esau's blessing. All right. Now we talked about how the blessing was not as far as inheritance was concerned. That was the thing he stole before. The birthright. Thank you. Yeah, for a bowl of soup. This one he just conned his dad into giving it to him, and his mother helped him, which is really bad. What kind of family that was. And so the blessing, though, was more about who would have control of what in the family, and what the father saw this child becoming. Okay, so it was kind of like, okay, you're my firstborn. I'm going to let you have control of the family. When I die, you become the patriarch of the family. Well, that's where Jacob is. Okay, he has now will become the patriarch in the family when Isaac passes away. The thing with this particular blessing, though, is with this blessing, it was not just where you were in the family, it was also you are now the person who is in charge of keeping God's promise. So God promised Abraham, Isaac, land, and heirs. That is now going to be passed on to Jacob. All right. So let's go to chapter 28. Now, after Jacob steals the blessing from Esau, Esau was all happy, giving him high fives, like, way to go, guy, right? No. He was ready to kill him, and he was hoping that Isaac would die pretty soon so he could go ahead and take Jacob out. Well, of course, Rebecca, who seemed to hear everything, she just, got it eavesdropped on everybody. She heard that Esau was going to try to kill his brother Jacob. Jacob, remember, was Rebecca's favorite. So Rebecca goes to Isaac, and we're going to start in 27:46. Chapter 27, verse 46. Then Rebecca said to Isaac, I'm disgusted with living because of these Hittite women. Remember, Esau, we were told, married 2 Hittite women. All right. So it wasn't enough just to marry one. He married 2. So she's disgusted with living because of them. If Jacob takes a wife from among the women of this land, from Hittite women like these, my life will not be worth living. So, in other words, if Jacob marries a Hittite woman, I'm just going to kill myself. I can't stand that. What she's trying to do is get Jacob or Isaac to send Jacob away to protect him from Esau. All right, so chapter 28, verse 1. So Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him. Then he commanded him, do not marry a Canaanite woman. Go at once to Padanaram, to the house of your mother's father, Bethuel. Take a wife for yourself there from among the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. All right, so Isaac brings Jacob into his presence, and he blesses him. Now, this is not the same blessing we had in chapter 27. This is a blessing for a trip, being able to accomplish this mission of going and finding a wife. Okay. Then he says, don't marry a Canaanite woman. Your mother will kill me and then she'll kill herself, basically. Don't marry a Canaanite woman. We don't want you doing that. You go, like Abraham sent his servant to go find a wife for Isaac, who is Rebecca. You go back up there. You find a cousin to marry. I know that sounds strange. You find a cousin to marry, someone who is of Laban's daughters. Laban, remember, is Rebecca's brother, right? So go up there, marry someone from within the family. The reason this is really important is because of religion. That family at least had some concept of who God was, who the God of Abraham and Isaac is. Pick whichever one you want. Who God is. The Canaanites didn't, for the most part, except for Abimelech seemed to really understand God. So there are some, but for the most part, they were more into the pagan religions.
Abraham sent a servant, but then Jacob's going to go by himself.
Yes, Abraham sent a servant, but Jacob's going to go by himself because Mama wants Jacob into security, safety, away from Esau. So go to Rebekah's brother in Padan Aram and marry a cousin. Verse 3. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples. May he give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham, so that you may take possession of the land where you now reside as a foreigner, the land God gave to Abraham. Then Isaac sent Jacob on his way, and he went to Padan Aram, to Laban, son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, who was the mother of Jacob and Esau. All right, so Isaac does give Jacob a blessing, and it is the same blessing that God gives to Abraham and Isaac. Okay, so he blesses him. He says, may you have a large family, basically. Bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of people. So he gives him the blessing of heirs, which we have seen in Abraham in chapters 12 and 15. And Isaac actually got this in chapter 26, verses 3 and 4, okay, from God. So this shows us that Isaac has accepted that Jacob is now the bearer of this blessing from God, this promise from God. So he's to have heirs, and then he's to have land. You're going to have this land. You're a stranger here right now, but you are going to receive this land at some point. In other words, you're going up to Padan Aram, but you're going to have to come back. All right? Don't stay up there. And then, once again, Jacob is the bearer of the promise as he goes into Padan Aram. Okay? Verse 6. Now Esau learned that Isaac had blessed Jacob and had sent him to Padan Aram to take a wife from there. And that when he blessed him, he commanded him, do not marry a Canaanite woman. And that Jacob had obeyed his father and mother and had gone to Padan Aram. Esau then realized how displeasing the Canaanite women were to his father Isaac. So he went to Ishmael and married Mahalath, the sister of Nebaioth, the daughter of Ishmael, son of Abraham, in addition to the wives he already had. Esau. Goodness. This is the last we're going to see of Esau for a while. But yeah, mom and dad hate the Canaanite women, so guess what? I'm going to go. Jacob's supposed to go get from one side of the family. I'm going to get it from the other side of the family. And it's a third wife. Why would you want that many mother-in-laws? Come on, Esau. Think about this. So he goes to the other side. He goes to Ishmael's side, Abraham's brother, half-brother, whatever, brother, goes to Ishmael and gets a wife from him. Sorry, Ishmael's Isaac's, isn't he? Yeah.
Isaac's son. Abraham's son.
Abraham's son, Isaac's brother. I'll get there. It's been a long 2 weeks, guys. Isaac's brother, okay? So he goes to his father's family instead of to his mother's family and gets the wife just to tick off his parents. I mean, this isn't just teenage rebellion. Esau's pretty up in years by now. This is just plain flat rebellion. I can't have, and he's got to be angry. He's got to be angry at Jacob because Jacob stole his blessing and his birthright. He has nothing. He's probably angry at Rebecca because she favors Jacob and is helping him out. And he's got to be mad at Isaac because Isaac didn't have a blessing for him. He gave it all to Jacob. So he's just ticked off all the time. And with this rebellion, Esau rebels by marrying a daughter of his great uncle, Ishmael. Actually, I guess that'd be Uncle Ishmael, wouldn't it? Okay, so verse 10. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. All right, so this is the famous story of Jacob's ladder. It's really a staircase, okay? Staircase, ladder, one is safer than the other. And I'm sure the angels didn't want to use the ladder all the time. Use the staircase. So Jacob sees a ladder or staircase reaching into heaven as he is sleeping on his way to Padanaram. And up at the top of this staircase is the Lord, God, which may be pre-incarnate coming of Christ, okay? Seeing vision of Christ, Jesus. And so God in human form. And Jacob is lying there, and God speaks to him. And God says, I'm giving you this land that you're lying on right here. I'm giving you that plus everything north, south, east, and west. Giving you the same land I gave to Abraham. So in Abraham, we saw this in chapter 15. And with Isaac, we found it in chapter 26, 2 through 6. So the God of Abraham and Isaac is now giving this promise to Jacob. So it's not just Isaac for giving this to Jacob. God is saying, yes, he is the son of promise now at this point. And he's going to give him heirs. Okay. And once again, Abraham and Isaac were also promised heirs. So he is going to have heirs, lots of people. And finally, all people will be blessed. In other words, you are the son of promise. You are the one carrying this spiritual relationship with me. And because of that relationship, you are going to bless others. All the world is going to be blessed through you. Now, people keep wanting to point to this as being Jesus, which is true. But they had a mission. Israel had a mission before this. They were to be the people who represented God on earth. God even gave them the perfect land to do that. That little bit of land that connects Africa and Asia, and the European trade routes came through there. Everything went through that little piece of land. Perfect to reach the world with. So all the world will be blessed if you hold on to this covenant, to this promise, and you stay in good relationship with me and show others what this relationship is like. And then he goes, I am with you. Now that's kind of important for Isaac or Jacob at this point. Think about it. He doesn't know if Esau is trailing after him, ready to kill him. And he doesn't know what's going to happen to him up in Padanaram. But God says, I am with you. I will bring you back. I will give you all of this that I've promised you that I will give you. I am with you. And God tells that to Isaac as well. I am with you, Isaac. And it is implied with Abraham, as he says, Abraham, go. Go to this country you don't know about. And you know who else said, I am with you, or I will be with you always? Jesus. Think about that. So if God is going to be with Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Jesus says he's going to be with us, don't you think Jesus is going to be with us? Yeah. As we continue his mission. Because remember, when Jesus says that, it is go into all the world and preach the gospel, teaching, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything I've taught you. And lo, I'm with you always to the end of the age. As you are doing that, what he commanded, Jesus is with you. Okay. All right. Verse 16. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place. Either that or that taco just did not settle. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. He called that place Bethel, or Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I'm taking, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God, and this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house. And all that you give me, I will give you a tenth. All right, so first of all, what is Jacob's response or reaction? He realizes this is a sacred place. He recognizes the sacred. He didn't just say, oh, that was just that burrito I had, a bad dream. No, he recognized this really was God speaking to him. And so then he took action when he woke up the next morning. I'm not sure how much sleep he actually got after that. I mean, how much sleep would you get after something like that? But he gets up, and when he gets up, he sets up a pillar. Okay, so this stone, it's not a little stone like this. Okay, he wasn't sleeping on something this big. It was probably a large stone, maybe even as big as this table or even bigger. Okay, and he takes that stone and he sets it upright, buries it in the ground a little bit so it'll stand upright. That was to be a signal to anyone walking by that this place is sacred. There is something special about this place. It'd be like walking through the field and seeing a turtle on top of a post. Somebody put that turtle there. There is something special or wrong with that person. Okay, that the turtle is up there. Pay attention. So that's what this was, that she had this pillar now that is set up there. And he did the custom, which was if you were making something sacred, you anoint it with oil. And so he anointed it with oil, probably olive oil, not motor oil. They didn't have that then, but olive oil, okay, to make it a sacred place. And he called it Bethel, or we would say Bethel, but Bethel, which means house of God. Bet is house, El is God. This is where God is. Think about how that is. I mean, there was a place that heaven and earth were actually meeting, intertwined. Think about that. And then he declares a vow in verses 20 through 22. If God will be with me. Now, if God will be with me, I don't think he's trying to extort God. If you'll do this, God, then I'll do this. I don't think that's what he's saying. He's going, if this wonderful thing really does happen, then I will know for sure that it was really God who spoke to me. And it is God who is with me. So it's not an extortion thing. It's like, I expect this to happen. And if it does, then I will know for sure that I have the same God as my father and my grandfather. helping me, with me. So if all these things happen as God's promised, then God will definitely, most definitely be worthy of praise. In other words, God will have proven his power and love for Jacob.
It's kind of a declarative statement too, like if God is with me, who will be against me?
Yeah. Yeah. If this God really is God, then all these things are going to happen without a doubt. No one can be against me. And when I get back here, when God gives me all these things, I'm going to give him a tenth of everything that he's provided. He's provided everything, so I can give him a tenth back. We wonder why a tenth. If you remember when we talked about Melchizedek, that was just the common practice at that point, that you would give a tenth of the spoils of war to the god. And apparently Isaac says, this whole thing is a spoil of war. God is giving me everything, providing me everything. I can at least give him a tenth back. So that is his vow. Now, this part of the story would have been important for those who Moses was standing there reciting it to, because they had experienced the promise of God for freedom, protection, and provision. God had gotten them out of Egypt, freedom. He had protected them by destroying Pharaoh's army. He's provided for them with manna, quail, water, everything they need as they wander in the wilderness. So that should have been enough for them to embrace God, like Jacob was embracing God. Why? Because they also have this promise that God will take them into the promised land. And it is coming. And God is doing all this. God is fulfilling what he has promised. And so, like Jacob, you should be praising God and embracing God. All right, chapter 29. Jacob has a very fast trip because he's lying on the ground in 28, and 29, he's already there. Verse 1. Then Jacob continued on his journey and came to the land of the eastern peoples. There he saw a well in the open country with 3 flocks of sheep lying near it, because the flocks were watered from that well. The stone over the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone away from the well's mouth and water the sheep. Then they would return the stone to its place over the mouth of the well. Now Jacob asked the shepherds, "My brothers, where are you from?" "We're from Haran," they replied. He said to them, "Do you know Laban, Nahor's grandson?" "Yes, we know him," they answered. Very talkative, these shepherds. Then Jacob asked them, "Is he well?" "Yes, he is," they said. "And here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep." It's like, here, go talk to her if you want to find out about him. Leave us alone. You're weird. "Look," he said, "the sun is still high. It is not time for the flocks to be gathered. Water the sheep and take them back to the pasture." "We can't," they replied, "until all the flocks are gathered and the stone has been rolled away from the mouth of the well. Then we will water the sheep." While he was still talking with him, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherd. When Jacob saw Rachel, daughter of his uncle Laban, and Laban's sheep, he went over and rolled the stone away from the mouth of the well and watered his uncle's sheep. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and began to weep aloud. He had told Rachel that he was a relative of her father and a son of Rebekah. So she ran and told her father. Okay, so here we go. The love story begins. Jacob and Rachel. So Jacob gets up there and he's in the middle of nowhere, and here's this well, and there's some flocks, 3 flocks of sheep around this well. And the shepherds had made a pact that everybody has to come to the well first before they water the sheep. That's to keep someone from stealing water. Okay? So they had this pact. Jacob comes up and just starts talking and say, "Hey, where are you guys from?" "Well, we're from Haran." "Oh, great. That's great. That's where I'm headed." Do you know this guy named Laban?" "Yeah, sir." "Is he okay?" "Yep." Like I said, real talkative shepherds. Yep. Uh, there's his daughter right there. That's who you're looking for. That's not what they said, but daughter over there. They were trying to get rid of him. All right. So he sees Rachel. She's coming with Laban's flock of sheep. So what does Jacob do? Hey guys, it's way too early to have the sheep here to be one. You really should take them back into the pasture. He's trying to get rid of them now, so he can have time with Rebecca or Rachel. Said, get out of here, get. I don't know if they left or not, but here comes Rachel, and Jacob figures, you know what? I'm not part of this pact. Forget it. And so he opens up the well and gives and waters Rachel's sheep. Isn't that kind of the opposite of what happened with the Abraham's servant? Yeah, he asked for his camels and himself to be watered. This Jacob is going and watering.
Could this be the same one?
Could be, maybe, we don't know. So he waters, and then it says he kisses Rachel. Now let's not get too hard on that, okay? This is more like a Hallmark kiss. It was a kiss of cousins. All right, they were really kissing cousins. It was a kiss of greeting, of thankfulness to actually be there, right? And so Rachel then runs back to her house. And remember, we discussed that this was probably so that things could be prepared for him to come and join them. I don't know if there are other shepherds with Rachel or not, or if she just trusted Jacob with the sheep. I mean, Jacob could have been a sheep thief for all that she knew. But she left and went to her father's house, Laban's house. Verse 15. After Jacob had, well, the end of 14, really. Where we go?
You're on 13.
I'm on 13. I didn't read far enough. I thought something was wrong there. As soon as Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he hurried to meet him. He embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his home. And there Jacob told him all these things. See, that's all Moses had to put before when he went through all that thing with the servant. Then Laban said to him, you are my own flesh and blood. After Jacob had stayed with him for a whole month, Laban said to him, just because you are a relative of mine, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be. So Laban brings Jacob into his home. He greets him with a holy kiss. Jacob told him why he is there. And Laban said, well, you're my own flesh and blood. What do I have to lose? Stay around. So then, in verse 15, end of 14, verse 15, after Jacob stayed with him for a whole month, so it's been a month now, Laban said to him, just because you are a relative of mine, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be. Now Laban had two daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes. Now, weak eyes means delicate eyes. Doesn't mean she was blind, but she had delicate eyes. We're not sure what that means. Anyway, she had them. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel had a lovely figure and was beautiful. Jacob was in love with Rachel and said, I'll work for you 7 years in return for your younger daughter, Rachel. And Laban said, it's better that I give her to you than to some other man. Stay here with me. So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. All right, so Jacob agrees with Laban to work 7 years to be able to marry Rachel. Now, this would be the bride price paid by Jacob to Laban. Okay, so the guy who wanted to marry the girl would have to pay the father to be able to marry the girl. When my parents were in, this actually still goes on, because when my parents were in Uganda, there were some men there that didn't realize mom and dad were married. They thought they were brother and sister. Don't know why. But they offered Dad several goats for Mom. Thankfully, Dad did not take them. But that's the tradition that went on. So this is what Jacob is doing. He is working for Rachel. Why? Because when he left, I don't think he took anything with him. He hadn't inherited anything yet. He just went back home, went back up to his uncle's place. So he had nothing to pay the price for. I see your brain working.
Yeah, but for Rebecca, the servant had taken gifts, so that was payment, so she could leave immediately.
The servant was prepared to get Rebecca.
Jacob thinks more on the fly.
Jacob's more on the fly. Yeah. Jacob's more like, can I scam this and get away with it? So Jacob agrees to work for 7 years to marry Rachel. Leah had weak eyes. She wasn't as beautiful as Rachel. And face it, Rachel's the first one that Jacob saw. So there'd be a influence there. All right, so verse 21, the deception. Then Jacob said to Laban, so he's worked for 7 years now. Jacob said to Laban, give me my wife. My time is completed, and I want to make love to her. So Laban brought together all the people of the place and gave a feast. But when evening came, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and Jacob made love to her. And Laban gave his servant Zilpah to his daughter as her attendant. All right, so what's happening here? We'll just stop right there for a second. For the wedding, you don't have this ceremony, okay, like we do, and then off they go for their honeymoon. There would be a feast, a 7-day feast, because these guys were rich. It'd be 7 days. But there would be a feast. After the first day of the feast would be the wedding night, okay? And then they come back and finish the feast. Well, Laban has now, we can see why Jacob's mother, Rebecca, is like she is. The whole family is deceptive. Okay? That's why Jacob's like he is. So Laban puts in Leah instead of Rachel. Now, I don't know how Jacob missed that. Maybe it was extremely dark. Maybe he had had too much to drink at the festivities. Whatever. Maybe Leah was wearing I don't know. But he missed it and didn't realize it until the next morning. And Laban's probably going, well, that's your fault, dude.
What does the maidservant have to do?
When a woman was given to a man, especially if she was rich, she would get a servant to be with her.
On her wedding night?
Not on her wedding night, no.
Well, that's
Just to be with her.
Just saying, I don't know.
Yeah. In fact, I think that may have been what Hagar was to Sarah. One that was given to her. Maybe not. So she has all the benefits now of a wife. She has a maid and everything. But
I like the exclamation point on this next part.
verse 25. When morning came, there was Leah. So Jacob said to Laban, what is this you've done to me? I served you for Rachel, didn't I? Why have you deceived me? Laban replied, it is not our custom here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one. Finish this daughter's bridal week, then we will give you the younger one also in return for another 7 years of work.
Barney Fife should have made like some kind of storyline of this.
Yes. So he says, Laban, what are you doing to me? You deceived me. Laban didn't know the rest of the story back home. It's like, well, dude, your name does mean deceiver. Join the family. And he gives this explanation. Well, we've got to get rid of the first one. The oldest has to be married first, and then the younger ones can be married. That may have been true, but I think the real reality was he couldn't get rid of Leah. He was having trouble with it. So he says, okay, let's do this deal. Go go ahead and finish out this week's festivities of the wedding with Leah, and then I'll give you Rachel. But this is not a BOGO. It's not buy one, get one free. Okay. You got to work another 7 years for Rachel. So, verse 28, and Jacob did so. He finished the week with Leah, and then Laban gave him his daughter, Rachel, to be his wife. Laban gave his servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her attendant. So once again, these rich women get these attendants. Jacob made love to Rachel also when his love for Rachel was greater than his love for Leah, and he worked for Laban another 7 years. So he's been 14 years at this thing. All right.
But he
A
had,
long engagement.
but he
Well, he was already, long for the first one, then the second one, he's already married.
had two, he
Yeah,
had two
two
wives
wives.
during this period.
Mhm.
Jacob definitely owed somebody. He deserved it.
Yes. All right. So
At least he was very patient.
he was
Yeah.
patient. All right. So now, verse 31, we start into what I call the baby war. And Jacob did so. Okay, so he finished the week. Verse 31. When the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben, not the sandwich. For she said, it is because the Lord has seen my misery. Surely my husband will love me now. So she has a son. God has allowed Leah to have a son, and she names him Reuben. He has seen my misery, or see a son. Like, okay, that's kind of redundant, but okay. Because God has seen my misery with Jacob, I should now be the favored wife. Because remember, during that time, the two things were in play here. Number one, a woman who was without children seemed to be cursed by God, or was seen to be cursed by God. So it was a shameful thing not to have children. And the second thing, if you have more than one wife, which Jacob does now, the one with the most sons wins. She is to be the most favored wife. All right. So that's what she's trying to get to here, is favored wife status. Verse 33. She conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, because the Lord heard that I am not loved, he gave me this one too. So she named him Simeon. Simeon means one who hears. God has heard me. Verse 34, again she conceived, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, now at last my husband will become attached to me because I have borne him 3 sons. So he was named Levi, which means attached. So her whole goal here is to become the most favored wife, to overrule Rachel and become the most favored wife of Jacob. Verse 35, she conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, this time I will praise the Lord. So his name is Judah. Then she stopped having children. So Judah means praise. So she's had 4 male sons. Male sons? Yeah. 4 sons for Jacob. But she is still not the most favored wife. Rachel is still the most loved. Now, if the story ended right there, it'd be fine, but it doesn't. That's just the first salvo of this baby war. All right. Chapter 30, verse 1. When Rachel saw that she was not bearing Jacob any children, she became jealous of her sister. So she said to Jacob, give me children or I'll die. Okay, a bit dramatic, but we've heard this before. Sarah had issues. Give me children or I'll die. Not give me liberty or give me death. It's give me children or I'll die. Jacob became angry with her and said, am I in the place of God who has kept you from having children? Okay, so it's like, why are you yelling at me, woman? I'm doing everything I can. God's the one not letting you have children. Then she said, here's Bilhah, my servant. Sleep with her so that she can bear children for me, and I too can build a family through her. All right, where have we seen this before? Abraham and Sarah. Yep, the same fouled up thinking that if you have a child through my servant, my slave, then the child becomes mine. All right.
I can see why God gets angry.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I really can't see why God just doesn't go, you're done, all of you. I should have put a hole in the boat when the flood was going on. Verse 4. So she gave him her servant Bilhah as a wife. Jacob slept with her, and she became pregnant and bore him a son. Then Rachel said, God has vindicated me. He has listened to my plea and given me a son. Because of this, she named him Dan. Okay, so Dan means he is vindicated. So she thinks that because Bilhah was raped by her husband, that she is vindicated, and now she becomes the primary wife. First of all, it's not your kid. Second, your sisters had 4 sons. You've only got 1 here. You're not vindicated at all. Plus, think of how horribly you just treated your slave. But she thinks she's been vindicated. Rachel really, Leah and Rachel are not very nice people. Okay. Jacob became angry. Well, wait, where are we? I want verse 7. Rachel's servant Bilhah conceived again. So this happened again. It wasn't a one-time thing. Rachel's servant Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, I have had a great struggle with my sister and I have won. So she named him Naphtali. You did not win. You're still down 4-2. My great struggle, my struggle, Naphtali. That's all this is about, is this struggle, this power struggle between the 2 sisters. Now, I do want to say something about Bilhah. While she is being treated horribly, God, in essence, is blessing her by allowing her to have children. This could have gone on and God said, no, you're not going to have children. But she no longer bears the shame of not having any children. So she is blessed with that. God is overlooking this a little bit with that. But God is in no way condoning what is going on here. All right. Okay, not to be outdone. Verse 9. When Leah saw that she had stopped having children, she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as wife. Okay, it says wife. It really means like concubine at best. Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, what good fortune. So she named him Gad. So Gad means good fortune or a troop. So she's expecting that it's good fortune or that there's going to be a troop of babies coming later. Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. Then Leah said, how happy I am. The women will call me happy. So she named him Asher. So Asher means happy. Yes, you've now learned the secret. Asher was one of the 7 dwarfs.
There it
I
is.
thought it was one of the reindeer.
Okay, so now Zilpah is in on it. She's had 2 sons. God has blessed her twice. But still, the conditions there are she was raped by Jacob. This was not consensual.
What are the traditions then of raising these children? Does the mother who bears them actually get to raise them?
No, the other mother is supposed to be the mother. In other words, these children are not a part of that woman at all. They would be a part of Leah and Rachel only. So they are actually forfeiting their children. They have no rights. They're property.
It comes down to being possessions too, much like women would.
Mhm.
Their possessions, children had no value other than as possessions, right?
Yes. And unless you're the firstborn,
Right.
then you're important. But They're way past firstborn here. Okay, verse 14. During wheat harvest, Reuben went out into the fields and found some mandrake plants, which he brought to his mother Leah. Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But she said to her, "Wasn't it enough that you took away my husband? Will you take my son's mandrakes too?" "Very well," Rachel said. "He can sleep with you tonight in return for your son's mandrakes." So, see, we're laughing. This is just weird. So when Jacob came in from the fields that evening, Leah went out to meet him. "You must sleep with me," she said. "I have hired you with my son's mandrakes." So I slept with her that night. Okay, I call this the mandrake maneuver. All right. Mandrake maneuver in the baby war. Mandrakes are a fruit. Okay, they're I think they're a little yellow fruit, maybe. I'm looking at my notes real fast. Anyway, it's a little fruit, and it was used for medicinal purposes to help women conceive. So when Reuben finds them, he brings them to his mother because he knows that she wants to have more children. And uh, Rachel says, "Hey, wait, I'd like those because I haven't had any yet. So can I have some mandrakes?" So a fight ensues, and a deal is struck where Leah prays Rachel for the mandrakes, or with mandrakes. Apparently, it was Jacob's turn to be with Rachel that night, and so she then bought time with Jacob, and chaos. Can you imagine being Jacob coming into the house, and Leah goes, "Hey, you're with me tonight. I bought you some fruit." Okay, whatever. He's going, "I had a much better deal with that pot of stew, but whatever." So, verse 17, God listened to Leah, and she became pregnant and bore Jacob a fifth son. Then Leah said, "God has rewarded me for giving my servant to my husband." So she named him Issachar, which means reward. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. God has rewarded me for allowing my husband to rape my servant and give me a child through them. That's not what God was doing. This is illegitimate thinking. Not illegitimate child, illegitimate thinking.
Soap opera.
It is. It's worse than a soap opera because these guys are trying to bring God into it. And God really doesn't have anything to do with this much, other than he keeps allowing them to have children. So no, God is not rewarding you for giving your slave over to him. Leah conceived again and bore Jacob a sixth son. Then Leah said, "God has presented me with a precious gift. This time my husband will treat me with honor because I have borne him six sons." So she named him Zebulun, which means honor. In other words, now I have six sons. That's more than everybody else put together at this point. Then I am bound to be the primary wife. He has got to love me more. He's got to honor me more. Turns out, not so much. Now, verse 21 is interesting. Sometime later, she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. We never hear about the women being born. They were not important.
Well, someone's in the kitchen.
Yeah, someone's in the kitchen. I knew that was coming.
Sorry.
Unfortunately, that song was going through my mind. I was trying to not say it.
How often do you hear about dying?
Yeah, Dinah. So this is important. This will become very important. Okay, to know that Dinah is Leah's daughter, but it's not important right now. It's just one of these little things that the storyteller would put in to foreshadow something coming, and we will get to that much later in chapter 34. But Leah has a daughter, Dinah. Now, there may have been other daughters too that were born, and they just weren't noticed. Verse 22, then God remembered Rachel, He listened to her and enabled her to conceive. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son and said, God has taken away my disgrace. She named him Joseph and said, may the Lord add to me another son. So Joseph means may he add. In other words, she was still looking for more sons so that she can take over the primary wife position. Unfortunately, she only gets one more son. We'll find out in chapter 35, and it is under very bad conditions. Okay. So Benjamin will be the final son. The baby wars finally are over with 11 right now. 12th one will come. Whew. Jacob's got to be worn out by this point. Not to mention the maids, because they're the ones probably actually keeping up with all these children. Now, the depravity of the baby war. The children were nothing more than pawns. Not a Rachel, neither Rachel nor Leah wanted the children because they wanted to have children to love. They wanted the children so that they would be the favored wife of Jacob. The children were nothing more than pawns. They really didn't have love for Jacob. They just wanted to be in the prestigious place with Jacob, to be over their sister, basically. So no love for Jacob, just favored wife status. That's all this was about. And then the depravity truly was shown through the destructive treatment of the slaves. Now, what were the people who were listening to Moses? What were they thinking about this story? Before they went in, they may have thought, okay, so what? They had a bunch of children and 2 slaves had children. So what? The people listening to Moses would have more compassion on Bilhah and Zilpah since they had experienced slavery. Now they had experienced 400 years of slavery. Their parents, their grandparents, and themselves, they had all experienced slavery. And so they could have more compassion on what happened to Zilpah and Bilhah than the others, than before. It was important to God for his people to learn the lesson of the horrors of slavery and how to treat people. We found that in Genesis 15, 13 through 14, where God is presenting to Abraham, this is what's going to happen. Your descendants are going to come back into the land, but before then, they are going to be in slavery for 400 years. God is going to allow his people to be enslaved for 400 years. Why? Because of the attitude they have that we are seeing as we're going through Genesis towards slaves, that they are nothing, that they are people that you can just rape and have a child with and take that child from them. That is where we are. And so God wants to make sure these people understand the horrors of slavery so that does not come into their minds ever again. The people of God are to be horrified and completely against slavery. And that is still true today. So once again, it is easier to see where God is leading when you know where God has been. And that's what the people of Israel are finding out. We know where God has been with our family. Look at where he's leading us. Okay. All right. Thank you all very much.